Hey there, and welcome back to another one of my videos. My first video of 0.3, technically my first, being recorded in 0.3, because I've been sitting there streaming from Friday, 4 p.m. Eastern, league drop, all the way until Monday night, more or less, with just a few breaks. So, if you watch the streams, you will have probably seen what I'm about to show you. But if you haven't, well then, welcome, and I hope you enjoy. So, what are we looking at today? Today is the crossbow league start build that we worked on. So, prior to 0.3 launching, quite a few people were in the stream asking Glitched, what's your 0.3 league start? And I said, fine, let's make it together. And we whipped up this build on stream. It obviously was done in 0.2 with the 0.2 tree, which is what the max roll guide is based on. But obviously, we had to, when the 0.3 went live, I did some fiddling, I went through some variations, and yeah, the tech that we worked on in 0.2 still worked here, still worked wonderfully. I used that all the way until I switched to the surrounded tech because they ninja buffed this, and it's kind of crazy. So we'll talk about this all. So what is the goal of this build? The goal of this build was to use cheap, pretty accessible uniques, and be able to clear stuff like Sekimas, Zesht, and different pinnacles. Like, I'm pretty confident that this can do all the pinnacle bosses. So, the core of the uniques originally was like this. We went with Coward's Legacy and Starkonja. The reason for this is that Last Lament, and we also use Last Lament, so, sacrifice 300 life to not consume the last bolt when firing. So, you see I'm at 1400. Now, 1400 life. I've got 74% evasion. I shoot once, because I had no bolts left. I shoot once. Boom. 81% evasion. Minus whatever Tailwind is giving me. So, yeah. There's definitely some stuff that you can do with the Starkonja's tech. This is a very good evasion rating. And even with a rare chest piece. And again, I'm spec'd into a lot of surrounded tech, so it's not even showing as much as I could even remotely get, because stuff like this, evasion rating while surrounded, is not working because I'm not wearing the surrounded helmet. So, generally what I found with Starkonja's and Coward's Legacy is that with Pyre's Ire, we could probably hit around 85 to maybe 90% evasion rating. This also depends on how much deflect rating you want. Oh, I unspec'd out of this earlier too. Yep, that would do it. That would do it, Glitched. So yeah, I'm even missing another 120% evasion here from the low life. So that's the Starkonja Coward's Legacy. So because of Last Lament, we can very easily upkeep low life, as we are now considered at low life when we are under 92% of our max life. The default roll is 75% on the Coward's Legacy. So, we can be in a constant low life state and take advantage of things like Killer Instinct. So when I was more heavily spec'd into this, before the surround attack, I used Killer Instinct. So we have Killer Instinct and Defiance are two really nice nodes when on low life. And, to top it all off, there is a support, which I don't have enough spirit. I have enough spirit when I'm using Starkonja's. And it's called Dire Strike. So, with Dire Strike support, 50% increased attack damage while on 20 life, while on low life, while on a supported skills active, and 70% on the level 2. And this takes 20 spirits. You can socket it on your Herald of Ice, or Wind Dancer, or whatever, and take advantage of this low life scaling even further. So yeah, there was quite a bit of stuff that you could do on low life, as you can see. We're able to very easily move around, shoot, keep low life up, etc. And this is because of the support gem on Permafrost, Ratha's Assault, which is new. The lineage support, we reload 3 bolts on roll. So basically, after shooting 3, we can re-roll, And keep in mind, this works independently on both sets. So because of instant swap, we can shoot, shoot, shoot on set 1, switch to set 2, shoot, 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 and now roll once, and it reloads both of them. So you can get quite a few shots off with this combination. So, I mean, 6 shots for one roll. And the entire time we're keeping this low life for low life scaling. So that's the core of the tech. And again, even if you don't have Last Lament, what you could do is you could just put something like Life Tap into a skill that you're not using regularly. So you would go in, Life Tap, and then you are back on low life. And then you can just keep mapping like normal. And then, of course, if you are too low, you want to you can just reset your life again. And then continue as is. So that's the tech. I found it worked really well even before I got Last Lament. I just used Life Tap to set my HP. Once I got Last Lament, anytime I needed to heal, I just flask, and then reset my life again with the bolt consumption and go as normal. So, you're gonna obviously, I think this was a given. I went on Deadeye. The actual reason for this, because when I first theory crafted the build, the group play team that I was working with said, Glitch, can you make it work with Mercenary? Design the build with Mercenary in mind. I said, yeah, no problem, I got this. So I designed the build with Mercenary in mind first, and we chose Gemling. Chose Gemling because Gemling just adds a lot of passive bonuses. The new gem-studded known was already shown, and the devs confirmed that hits against you have no critical damage bonus. Like, you can have all of this together at the same time with gem-studded. All 3 effects. Blue skills have 30% less cost. Or sorry, majority blue skills have 30% less cost, and 40% less movement speed penalty from using your skills while moving. So, really for us, red is the core one, and green is also very nice. Of course, we have integrated efficiency. This is just a nice damage boost. We have quality of all skills, and plus 2 level of all skills with dex requirements. So, like, we could add quite a bit of damage and just utility across the board with implants. The problem is quality of all skills is not terribly relevant to our Permafrost Bolt Requiem setup, but it does add a few more projectiles to Permafrost Bolts. So, and you'll see after that Requiem's AoE is kind of funky, so it does help a little bit there, but it wasn't, this node is not terribly useful. Otherwise, you could also just take Infusion here instead of the +2. You could also spec to Infusion and get a lot of survivability here, but this was only against elemental resistances. So yeah, Gemling looked really good with this build and just passively had a lot of utility while being versatile to cover a lot of other different builds that exist. Like, you generally can play Gemling for a lot of different builds in the game just because everything is just passive and just straight up buffs on everything. Next, the other one that would, and like this was a toss up between the two. Like, if I really was gonna pick one, which one would it be? The other one was obviously Deadeye, and it was obvious. Tailwind is OP. It's been OP since 0.1. Tailwind is a buff that Deadeyes get that gives them a stack every time they use a skill, which is skill speed, movement speed, and evasion rating. Then you also get damage reduction per Tailwind stack. So, if you have good evasion and can generally upkeep stacks, well, there you go. 10 Tailwind right there. And now we have the movement speed from it. And then you just have to use 1 attack every 10 seconds to keep your stacks up. Obviously, if you get hit, it's all gone. But if you're moving through, like, this is a lot of move speed that you get. The Tailwind is generally amazing. And the core reason that we would choose Deadeye. This is also 3% less damage taken per Tailwind against anything, not elemental focused. It could include physical. The downside here is that when you get hit, it's gone. So if you take 2 hits in rapid succession, your damage reduction is gone. While something like the elemental damage reduction from Gemling, the elemental damage reduction from Gemling is just always active, assuming, you know, you've added the support gems. Next, we have Called Shots. This one is so fun. Called Shots is a new change to 0.3 in that you have basically an aura around you that automatically marks enemies. Now, it will only mark one enemy at a time. But when you consume the mark on that enemy, it will apply a mark to a different enemy. So we are using this for Freezing Mark to basically give us effectively a second Herald device. So between Herald device and Called Shots with Freezing Mark, it's like we're running 2 Herald device, and it's really fun and satisfying. So we just fly through maps, we just explode packs with Called Shots. So this one's a lot of fun. And then just to add some more damage, we have Point Blank. Projectiles deal 20% more hit damage, so 1.2x multi, to targets within the first 3.5 meters of their movement. Oh, yep. This is just a straight up multiplier. We tend to be able to be close range with a lot of enemies, and I will explain that more in just a second. So we have quite a few layers of survivability in this build. So you're going to notice I don't run a lot of life, and if I'm going to be consuming life and staying, basically, let's say we're reserving life, I'm not going to be very survivable, right? So yeah, I'll talk about the damage reduction layers after. Let's just finish the Ascendancy. So those were the main 2. Next, Amazon. This one is also amazing for the build. First, we have Stalking Panther. Mathematically, Stalking Panther is amazing. It is absolutely amazing. And the reason for this is that if you have really good boots, gloves, helmet, etc., you get way more evasion from those items than you would from your chest piece. The downside is that it doesn't play nice with bestial skin. But here, so let's do, just to give you a quick example. Let's say you have boots with 900 evasion and a chest piece with 1600 evasion. You can already see where this is going. Chest piece with 1600 evasion, you divide by 2. You have half the value there. You lose 800 evasion. But then your boots with 900 evasion, obviously, double. And you have 1800. So already, you've gained 900, lost 800, so you're up 100. And then we haven't even considered gloves, which, you know, you can roll. I just picked up a pair earlier. Don't know where I left them. Here they are. Like, these are not super high. These are pretty low rolls, but I mean, 355 evasion bracers. So you can see how this can stack up really quickly. Starkandras can have, depending on the roll, can easily have 600 plus. Here we go. Like, this is a 2-socket, 610 evasion. No, I didn't even put any iron runes in it. So yeah, we can have 600 evasion on the helmet, 900 on the boots. Even if you don't have any on the gloves, that's already like, I don't have good boots right now, but that's already well over 1,000. You can easily reach up to 1,500 between just these 2 pieces, not even including the bracers. So you can basically be doubling local evasion by like 1,500. You add like 1,500 local evasion minus 800 for the chest. Let's say even you go higher end, you have a 2,000 evasion chest piece. Anyway, overall, mathematically, Stalking Panther comes out really well, and it stacks even better with High Resire, because High Resire doesn't give you that much local evasion, but the effect is what you want it for. One is that you have cold damage added to attacks, and doubles evasion rating if you have not been hit recently. So yeah, High Resire is amazing, especially with Amazon, because 1,300 evasion here, you basically offset the loss just on a good Starkandras. Now, the downside is, if you're going to move to Constricting Command tech, then that no longer works. Or at least it's harder to hit the values that you want, but there's other things that you can take as well. Second, and the main reason that you would use Amazon Mystic Harvest. Life Leech recovers based on your elemental damage as well as physical. So if you really support enough Life Leech in the build, you could, in theory, shoot with Last Lament, sacrifice 300 life, and then instantly leech it back. Well, not instant, but you can queue up leech back and just keep shooting with Last Lament, assuming there's monsters around to leech off of. So, because our permafrost is primarily cold damage, 80% of physical to cold, it's hard to leech the physical damage here because there's barely any, and that physical damage is probably going to be almost entirely negated by a natural monster armor because we're not armor breaking or doing any pen or anything like that. So, with that setup, you could, in theory, just keep shooting without ever having to reload and life flask or anything like that. This means that you can then drop the Ratha's Assault support gem and have an extra damaging support gem here in Permafrost Bolts. So Amazon is really interesting. Requiem shoots a lot of fast, hard-hitting hits over a period, and this means that the opened wounds, the open weakness is an incredibly strong effect. So we get 50% more damage against enemies with an open weakness, and 40% increased skill speed while an enemy with an open weakness is in your presence, on top of just generic 8% skill speed. Open weakness covers around 50, I believe it's 50% of the boss's health bar, meaning that you'll have 50% of the value here, or 1/2 of the value as your average. So on average, you will have a 1.25x multi and a 20% skill speed increase from this ascent, from these nodes, and this is pretty passively, on top of having the Leech and the Stalking Panther, which is very strong with High Desire. This ascent is also probably the best suited for transitioning to 0.3 Whirling Slash, which I will also cover in a future video. So Amazon is going to be a very good choice for this as well. And again, remember, all of these are pros and cons. This ascend will have no damage reduction, unlike the Deadeye Tailwind or the potential for gemling with Infusion here, and also just gem studded as well is also a defensive layer. Can't be crit. Basically, you're not going to be crit. So again, this is very offensive, except for Stalking Panther, which will boost your evasion. And last but not least, we have Tactician, which got a very nice buff. We have Strategic Embankments. Totems you place grant embankment auras. And so one of these is for the new mortar cannon. You gain 15% as extra fire damage. So you could set up a mortar with, say, flash grenades, and that will blind enemies plus what's it called? Add stun value as well, while you gain extra damage while you're around them. It could be something that you even just use for bossing, so you can put down right off the bat 2 totems, and then you gain 30% as fire or something. It is kind of silly here. It's very, very nice buff. Next, we also have Immobilization buildup and projectile damage builds pin. Pinned enemies cannot perform actions. This one is very strong. So, I never played Tactician, but my friend who does a lot of theory crafting with Tactician really swears by the Tactician class and building pin, because apparently their ailment threshold does not impact pinning, and pinning will now become an immobilize. So this ends up being incredibly strong, so we can start immobilizing enemies at the same time, and they also added a lot of support for pin around the tree. So we got like increased pin, bleeding you inflict on pinned enemies is aggravated. Like we added a lot more pin, apparently. I didn't look too much into this, but break 50% of armor on pinning an enemy, or pin buildup. So yeah, there's some more support for pinning in the new clusters. That is also quite nice. And if you just don't want to go either the totem or the pinning, there's also persistent buffs at 50% less reservation. This one is really nice, especially to lead to banners gain 5 glory per second. Most of the time, bosses in this game, you have a chance to just wait, which means that you could just, in theory, have a banner and just wait for glory to build up. If you're fighting Zesht or King of the Mist or Arbiter, like, you can just wait for banner to fill and drop a banner. It's not as the banners are not as strong as they were in 0.2, but even if you're just building up banner passively with this node, it is quite interesting as well. So persistent buffs have 50% less reservation is quite nice because there's quite a few spirit gems that we can use to help buff our build. So stuff like Overwhelming Presence is very strong. Mirage Archer is very strong. We have actually, I don't know if Mirage Archer counts as persistent. It does. Okay, so yeah, Mirage Archer, Herald of Ice, Wind Dancer, Overwhelming Presence. There's a bunch of things that we can use, and so we can fit in a lot more support for all this using Tactician as well without having to have Spirit on gear, and Spirit on gear is expensive. If we're using Hyries, we're not going to have it on the chest piece. +3 projectile amulets with Spirit and like other good stats is very expensive, and I don't even have that. And then otherwise, Spirit Corrupt on helmets. Starconjas is very cheap right now, so it was actually pretty trivial to hit a nice roll. It was way more expensive to buy the Qual than it was to buy the Starconjas and corrupt them. So there you go. Those are the 4 ascendancies that I would use with this build. So there you go. You have quite a few options over here on this side of the tree, and then generally wherever you start with, you have access to the same stuff. Okay. Wow, that was a lot of talking about ascendancies. We talked about the Sarkonjan Cowards tech. Next, let's talk about the Surrounded. So this is something that got ninja buffed in 0.3, and you've probably already seen a video on this because I found out about it somewhat late. One of my stream viewers was telling me, he goes, "Glitch, have you seen Constricting Command?" And I'm like, no? Was it changed? It wasn't in the patch notes. I'm like, yeah. I was browsing PoE Ninja, and this guy had it on, and he's like, it got changed. So now what it does is requires from 5 to 2 fewer enemies to be surrounded. And if you look at it, you are surrounded if there are at least 5 enemies within 3 meters of you. So wait a second. 5 minus 5, now you are permanently surrounded. You are just always surrounded if you wear this. And there are some great new clusters for surrounded. I believe they're new. Increased movement speed and dodge roll distance while surrounded. Increased attack damage while surrounded. Increased block, deflection, and ailment threshold while surrounded. Increased attack speed while surrounded. Like, there's a ton of support for this. The downside is, as I mentioned with the Amazon, this has barely any evasion rating on it. So you are taking a big hit to your base evasion rating, which is where all the multipliers apply to, if you are using Constricting Command. Now, they do have quite a few nice nodes, like here, 20%, 20%. This is also 20%, 30% evasion, so yeah, there's some nice stuff here for surrounded tech. Next, we also have the new belt. If you haven't seen this, Darkness Enthroned. This item gains bonuses from socketed items as though it was a helmet. This can be replaced with body armor, gloves, boots, and you can roll up to, as a base without corruption, 100% increased effective socketed items. And this pairs really well with something like Talisman of Egrin. Enemies you curse take 5% increased damage. And that means if you slot 2 of them in this, enemies you curse take 20% more damage. So this is another multiplier that you will be dealing, which is always nice. You always want more multipliers, right? And then that also means that you don't have to worry about low life tech. If you're going to be using Starconjas, you're going to be using Coward's Legacy, but this is an option with Constricting Command, because Constricting Command at the time of making this video, for a -5 to be surrounded, is in the range of 7 Divines. That's more than everything else in the build. Even like a decent Last Lament, the Coward's Legacy, the Starconjas, even with Spirit, and even a Hyries, you can get all of that for less than the Constricting Command currently. So in terms of a league start, if you're still generating just a few divines here and there and are a bit strict on budget, this is not budget friendly, but it is very nice if you can afford it later. So it is an upgrade path, and then you can switch to Darkness and Throne because you no longer need the belt slot, or you can even just switch to a belt with resistances, because herein lies the issue, as always, with builds that are heavy on uniques. No resistance here, no resistance here, no resistance here. So right off the bat, we have no resistance across any of these pieces. And even with all that, I'm wearing resistance on this jewel. This jewel has chaos res, and this one has lightning res. So yeah, I'm covering resistances. 3 jewels have resistances here. And I'm still not even close to capping chaos res, and I'm not even capped lightning. I have to use the Valako's Roar for this. So yeah, it gets a little rough out there with resistances. So of course, if you want to change out the belt and the helmet from the build, if you change the Constricting Command and you wear a pure something more supportive with just a lot of resistances and life, that's a great option for the belt slot as well if you don't want to go the Darkness Enthroned. Otherwise, you can always not use Hyries. If you have like a good 2000 plus evasion chest piece with res rolls, it can also really help slot in here. So those are your gearing options. Let's talk about supports. First, we have Called Shots. Of course, we're using Freezing Mark. We have Magnified Effect, Prolonged Duration, Cold Mastery, and Elemental Armament. Honestly, I don't think Prolonged Duration really matters here because it will automatically mark on a fixed timer every 5 seconds, and the mark by default lasts 8 seconds. I could probably switch this to another damaging support. Next, we have Requiem. This is your Last Lament base skill. Requiem. I have Elemental Armament, Stoicism, Rapid Attacks, and Deliberation. Do note that in the current tree that I'm posting, I don't have res. And the reason for that is because there's a new lineage support called Rakiata's Flow. This is also being hyped up, I'm sure, by other people. This was hyped up before launch because they did tease it in the launch video, and everyone was like, wait, what in the world is that? Because this is insane. Hits with supported skills treat enemy monster elemental resistance values as inverted. That means you trivialize all penetration in the build. You don't have to build any points of pen anymore, and you just, like, especially bosses which tend to have a lot of flat resistances besides King of the Mist, which just has chaos res. Most bosses, Zesh, Jazarok, Arbiter, they all have a good chunk of res. So not only do you ignore and can just save all the points from pen, you can then just like slot this in, and you get a multiplier based on how thick the resistance is of the enemy. The only problem is that, at the time of making this video, Rakiata's Flow, and we're gonna have to go by divines. 16 divines apiece. So, yeah, Rakiata's Flow is very expensive, and I was talking about having Constricting Command costing more than, like, most of the stuff in this build combined. Now we're talking about Rakiata's Flow that is probably more expensive than all the gear I'm wearing here combined. So, Rakiata's Flow is not exactly cheap. Maybe you'll get lucky, drop it. And so yeah, I won't have pen built in this current tree, but you do keep a note of penetration when you are making your tree and build, because Rakiata's Flow is quite incredible. The other downside is when I was using Rakiata's Flow is that when I was mapping with Permafrost Bolts, first of all, you can't use 2 lineage supports at the same. Oh wait, never mind, I'm dumb. Okay, well I don't have 2 Rakiata's Flow. So, what was happening is I would get a rare with cold resistance, and Permafrost Bolts was doing nothing. I could not... They felt way tankier versus anything else because of how strong they were. Obviously, you can just pop Requiem and nuke them if you find a rare that's just really thick. And alternatively, You could build pen on set 1, or in my case, I put cold pen here. I have enough damage to kill stuff at this point regardless, so I put cold pen here. We can also add fragmentation rounds to the rotation. So fragmentation rounds has a huge increased damage effect against enemies that are frozen and they explode and deal a big nuke. So fragmentation rounds plus permafrost bolts is a really potent combo. I'm lazy, so I don't want to like map with 2 different buttons. I could, of course, add fragmentation rounds and load fragmentation rounds on like my second set. So I'm switching to second set, load fragmentation rounds, and now I have my first set. So what I could do is I can shoot. Let's say I have a rare that's cold res, shoot, freeze it, fragmentation rounds, switch back. Done. So you could set up something like this for killing rares as well. We have our companion, and I'll talk about where I got this one after, but we have our companion. You really want Haste Aura. Anything else is cherry on top. Stuff like Temporal Bubble is super nice. Always Shocks is nice. Like Trail of... I think you can get Trail of... It's called Trail of Lightning or Trail of Thunder. That would be amazing for bossing if you can have it like lay some shock ground on the boss so you don't have to deal with shocking the boss yourself. Then we have the Loyalty. 10% of damage from hits is taken from support companion's life before you. This also pairs with Starkonja. 15% of damage from hits is taken from your damageable companion's life before you. So that's, again, part of the combo from Coward's Legacy to Starkonja, is that now we are 25% damage reduction. 25% of damage that would hit us is going to our companion. We add in, this is a new support. Minions from supported skills deal 100% less damage. Minions from supported skills take 100% less damage. This makes them basically invincible. They will never die. And this pairs really well with just damage reduction. This also pairs well with Inspiring Ally. Increases and reductions to companion damage also apply to you. Lucky for us, when it says increases and reductions, it doesn't mean more and less. Those are different multipliers. Increase and reduction is its own multiplier set. So we have companions deal increased damage, companion deals increased damage, and increased damage stuff. So all of these are super efficient when you have this node here. Because these are, companion deals 12% increased damage, which also applies to you. 10% increased damage while your companion is in your presence. So we get 22% damage increase, assuming our companion is in our presence. For one small node, and we have 3 of them here, 1 here, and all 4 of the leading nodes are the same type. So, very, very potent for this. It also means that you can get jewels with companion damage, and start adding in more effect there as well. So that's with the companion, and because of this, it means that it's effectively always active. You will always have that damage reduction. Again, when I'm talking about why do I have so little life, how do I not die? 1 is that we have very high evasion. 2 is that we have different layers of damage reduction. So this is the first one. The second one is obviously Tailwind, and the third one, the new mechanic for 0.3, is Deflect. So we have Deflection rating, 66% chance to deflect. Damage prevented by deflection, 40%. Assuming all 3 activate, you have full Tailwind, you deflect, and you have your minion up, then you are looking at, let's say you take a 5,000 damage hit, you take 25% less because that goes to your minion, you take 40% less from deflect, and then you take 30% less from Tailwind for a grand total of 1,000. So even if I consume, or 1,050, so even if I consume, let me just heal up. Even if I consume 300 life, I still have more than enough to tank a 5,000 damage hit. And this works regardless if it's 5,000 after my elemental resistances, I still can tank it, assuming all 3 of those damage reduction layers go through. So we do have a lot of stacking damage reduction in this build. Obviously, because of just the nature of those chance rolls, you might fail your deflect and evade at the same time. Obviously, if you fail your evade, Obviously, if you win your evade, you don't have to deflect, so... Yeah. Let's continue with the sports. We have our Slither Spitter, Permafrost Bolts, we have the Ratha's Assault for the reload. Otherwise, what happens is, if you don't have this in, you can't it will never naturally reload because it only ever loads one bolt, so it'll always be like this, which means that, you know, you shoot, even if you do stuff, like, you're always consuming life, which means that you always have to start using pots. So I do like Ratha's Assault for this build a lot, even if I'm using Last Lament, unless you're going to go with the Amazon route and build some life leech. We have Elemental Armament, Deliberation, Cold Attunement, Cold Pen. Again, I talked about Cold Pen because I don't want to build Pen in a tree when I have Rakiata's Flow or Requiem. Next, we have Wind Dancer. Any pure evasion build is going to use this. This is amazing. The only downside, remember that for Wind Dancer, is that even if it misses you, even if you evade, so you will still consume Wind Dancer. So then you will lose a big chunk of your evasion rating right there. Herald of Ice, obviously, we're freezing. Mirage Archer, I use it for bossing with Galvanic Shards to shock the enemy. So we have Shock, more chance to shock. And Elemental Weakness, again, we're talking about the Egrins. This is our chance to... or our damage, enemies take increased damage when you curse them. So, let's talk... Oh, yeah. Okay. So, yeah, that's that part. Next, you probably noticed these in my inventory. Sure-footed. This allows you to roll further. So this is really fun because we get increased evasion rating if we've dodge rolled recently, paired with Permafrost Bolt and Rakiata's Flow. Sorry, Ratha's Assault. We have to dodge regularly, so this is really fun for running through, dodging in, shotgun blasting somebody, and moving on. So I love this combo for this build. You obviously are missing out on stuff like just straight up increased evasion rating. You're missing out on +3 projectiles, but it's really satisfying to roll through and do stuff with Sure-Footed Jade. In terms of campaign, I leveled with a crossbow and explosive grenade with gas grenade. I did not take out my explosive grenade. My bad. Don't know where it is. Maybe I kept it here. So I leveled with gas grenade, explosive grenade. So I would just go gas grenade, explosive grenade. And keep in mind I use multi-shot. And the explosive grenade would basically ignite the gas grenade. So I would just rotate those for bossing. And even for just generally like clearing rares and stuff early on. So I did like this combo as well for campaign. I used multi-shot on both. Keep in mind grenades tend to be really heavy on mana costs. So I kept them at reasonable levels based on my total mana. One thing that's nice about another add-on to Ratha's Assault is that crossbows take mana when they reload. So yeah, they take mana on reload. So you can see that my mana basically never goes down. So if I consume life to not reload and just shoot another bolt, see my mana doesn't change. When I roll, it reloads, and I shoot, it still does not take mana. So mana costs are generally not a problem with this build. This means that something like an Olroth Heroic Tragedy could be really good on this build, because then you can convert a Keystone to give you evasion % based on your int. So that would always be a potential option for this build, as you would then be able to And you could do it here because Last Lament has very little crit. I didn't bother actually building crit. And then you can convert this to int. Int becomes evasion percent. So it's every 2 int gives you 1% evasion. So you can get something like 60% plus evasion. And also just the fact that there's a lot of decent value if you do have the time to buy and sell heroic tragedies. Then you could look and see like, oh, maybe this is good, and it only costs 3 points. So at 3 points, you get a good notable for the build. 5 points, you get 2 good notables, or even 7 points, you get 3 good notables in this cluster. Two notables for 5 points. So heroic tragedies, if you don't know, I've covered them in my previous build guides. They will change the notables in the area and any keystones. So yeah, in this case, you could go an Olroth keystone to get your evasion percent up, because we do have to build some int in the build. So yeah, it could also be quite a nice change. The only downside is that I believe we lose access to enhanced reflexes if we do that. Just be aware. As a sneak peek, I did manage to find myself one of those new Abyss Jewels, and so I'll just slot it in to show you what it does. This one, if you didn't really understand it, I'll just explain it. Every small node, keystone, and big notable node changes. Instead of the previous heroics, which are just the notables and keystones that change. So now we actually change the small nodes as well. And if you look at this one, we have +5 to tribute. So what is tribute? So tribute is just a stat that scales your new notables. 5% increased attack critical hit chance per 10 tribute, 3% accuracy rating per 25 tribute. So it's always about building a lot of tribute and then getting a bunch of nice notables around. Downside is that mathematically speaking, a lot of these nodes are pretty bad if you're not going to invest like more than 10 points. This is something that you basically find, check if you have all the notables are perfect for the build. Like, let's say we're going a crit based build, we have 1 crit, 2 crit. Well, that's it. I only see 2 crits and no other damage boosts. Let's say you had 4 of those crits. You take 20 small nodes, 4 of those crit nodes, and now you suddenly have 200% increased critical hit chance. So this is something that you base your entire build around. So it's kind of interesting, because it will suck up 20 plus passive points to make it valuable. So there's just a sneak peek. Not relevant to this build. I don't think we would ever slot it in. We do have enough stuff to grab with the points that we currently have. But I thought it'd be fun. And that's it for the build guide. So, hope you enjoyed. I'll just go and clear some stuff in the meantime and enjoy. So, if you've been watching on Twitch or on YouTube stream, I've been doing a lot of Secumus with this build, where it's a lot of fun to just roll through and just bum rush everything. Yep. Keep in mind, again, sure-footed Sigil. Cold res, suffering. So if I'm going to do a map with Sigil, I will then slot in a Sapphire Charm. So keep in mind, I don't do a lot of mapping. And I've not set up any towers. Oh, second. I should add my low life passive point back in. I haven't decided what I want to unspec. Just for mapping purposes, I'm going to unspec this for now. so I can get the low life from Defiance back. It's a shame to lose movement speed, but it is what it is. So again, we set our life, and let's roll. Literally. Forgot to load my second set. So that we have reflect guys in this map, so it is quite a bit more dangerous. So remember, try and shoot 3, then reload. With a... And there's our Abyss. Now let's say you get into a sticky situation. Now you can just... For us, we just press our Requiem. And we dodge rolled, so... This is pretty much... the worst set of mods. Reflecting projectile shield guys with increased projectiles means they reflect 3 back for every 1 time I hit them. And makes for some sketchy combinations. Plus the crabs that also have a lot of projectiles, and they come in packs of 20, but that's what evasion is for. And there's a bug with Requiem, sometimes it will just deactivate. And that's it for this section. So, when you have a boss, you set up. Roll. You kill. So for us, we use Elemental Weakness, which if you're using Rakiata's Flow is not good, but if you're not using Rakiata's Flow is very good. Then we have Mirage Archer. Creates a clone when you dodge roll. There's a cooldown to it, obviously, but yep, creates a clone, and that's what we're using for our shocking. So yeah, before the boss spawns, roll, set up the clone, and go. So keep in mind, I do spec pierce nodes, and they are pretty much for this reason. To pierce enemies and make sure that my permafrost bolts don't all get stopped by the first enemy in my way. There we go, all rares down. The Abyss was a little sketchy, but crabs shooting 30 projectiles at us, plus deflecting shield guys that reflect 3 projectiles for every 1 you hit them with. Doesn't make for a fun combo. And here's one little fun thing that you can do with Requiem. You use Nova support, and you just become a walking high damage, low effectiveness spark, because you're very slow and you don't have very good uptime on it. One thing about Requiem is that you can, so you see I just used it on set 1, I switched to set 2, and now I can use it again. And both cooldowns are independent. Both cooldowns are independent, and when you swap, they will disable. There's some other conditions that cause it to drop as well. I believe taking a hit does cause it to drop, even if it's not mentioned. Swapping will definitely drop the combo, and drop the effect, and put it directly on cooldown. And I've had other bugs too, where I feel like after coming out of a roll, Requiem also dropped. So what would happen is I believe what I believe was happening is that the game was counting that I was still on permafrost bolts, so I would roll and come out of the roll holding left click and pressing my Compose Requiem, and it's like the game was thinking that I was still on permafrost bolts, and when I ran out of when I spent my 4 bolts, it put Compose Requiem on cooldown. Anyway, so just to be a little bit of aware that there's some funkiness when it comes to Compose Requiem. Generally, it's just really amazing for bossing, and when you have some distance, you just press it, and you just destroy whatever it is that you're trying to shoot at. Well, there you go. Hope you enjoyed, hope it was interesting, and I will also dump this stuff off and show with the new Pinnacle boss as well. I would need and this is an Act 2 Well of Souls. And you just jump in. This would be a great place for fragmentation rounds, but anyway. You can see our Mirage Archer shooting, and shooting Galvanic Shards and applying some shock to the boss. But even without that, Permafrost is really not meant for bossing. This boss revives a few times. Don't stand next to this, otherwise you'll get stuck in this spot. There you go. That's this new Pinnacle boss with this build. Now, I don't think this boss is particularly tanky, but here you go. I've already nuked Zesh with this and everything else, so... So we got this 70%. As I was talking about, this is the body armor version. There we go. Well, if you watched through the entire thing, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed. And I will see you in the next video or on stream. come join and hang out on the YouTube or Twitch streams, which will generally be happening every night. But I was recording this video. In the description, you'll find the... I will make a very strong attempt to use Mobalytics. If I don't rip my hair out, you will find the build on Mobalytics. If not, it will be a max roll link. And if you don't see it yet, it means that the video went live before I finished writing the build. So there you have it. If it's the old build and you see the 0.2 tree, it's because it's the max roll I made before. But my POB is linked in that one as well. I will have POBs for both the Starkonja's tech, Starkonja Coward's Legacy tech, as well as the Constricting Command tech. So there you have it. Hope you enjoy it, and I'll see you next time.